The code for the coding chess is in Discord or like class code. Is that what you're asking? Or are you asking for like the homework? Okay, today's class is on printing hello world. So, in this lesson, you're gonna learn how to write your first basic JavaScript program. Traditionally, the first thing you're gonna print is a message onto the screen. So let's make the message hello world. First, we need to include a main function on the program. We're gonna write function, which tells JavaScript that we want to make a function. Main, which is gonna be the name of the function, and the two parentheses. So right here, we just made a function called main, and then we put curly braces to say that everything inside of these curly braces is going to be part of our function. Inside the curly braces, we put the code that's supposed to go inside of the function. So console.log, that's how we log a message to the console. Open parentheses, quotes, and our message, which is hello world. Then we close the parentheses, close the quote, and then put the semicolon at the end. So here we have our message, which is inside of this function. And the way to call it is using main. So we just write down the name of the function, and then we put a parentheses, and then we put the semicolon. So we have our function, and we're calling the function right after. Okay, here if you run it now, you're gonna see the console gets logged hello world. If we want to print a different message, we just change what the message inside console.log is. So let's remove the message first, add the quote, add the message, which can be my name is Carol, and then close the quote. We can print another line by doing the same thing. Instead of adding to this message though, we just do console.log here. So we just type console.log and then open parentheses, quote, and then today's Friday. So now this prints two messages. If we run this, you see it says my name is Carol and today's Friday. And you can see it's on a new line because it's a new message. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, so should be your first time making a JavaScript only um, code.js sandbox. So it's just JavaScript console. Okay, so first we have to make our function, and I'll call the function main, just like the slides. We put a parentheses, and then we put the curly brace. And then inside of the function, we can put whatever we want to run. So let's do console.log message, and then semicolon to end the line. And when we run this, we shouldn't get anything. That's because this code is inside of a function, and we haven't called the function yet. So if you want to call this function, you have to write down the name of the function, and then put the parentheses, and then close the line. Now in JavaScript, semicolons are optional, so you don't have to put this or this, but it just makes it better and easier to read because you know where the end of the line is. And then if we want to change this message, we just have to change what's inside of the quotes. So this would be new message. And now it prints a new message to the console. If you want to print two messages, then you just have to write down a second one. So now we have console.log new message and then console.log new message two. And I should print first message first, and then it goes to the second line, or really the fifth line. And then once it goes to the fifth line, it prints this other message. Okay. Next, let's talk about variables. So computer memory can store pieces of information that can be changed or updated throughout a program. One way that programmers can store information on computer memory is by using variables. So here you can see we have a lot of different variables inside of the computer's memory, and they can represent a lot of different things. So while they use the same name, variables in algebra and variables in programming, they're different. So in programming, a variable is a container for a value. So you can think of the variable as a box. Each box has a unique label, which is the name of the variable. And in this example, we have three variables. The time, name, and is Sunny. Then inside of each box, we can store a value. Each variable can only store one value. So if you want to write a new variable to time, you have to remove the old one and then put the new one. Or in programming, we just replace the variable, the value. So here you can see time has a value of 60. The variable name has a value of Carol, and the variable is Sunny has a value of true. A computer allows you to store thousands of variables with a variety of information that we can access and change as the program runs. So this is how you define variables. Let's take a closer look. So we have the let keyword, which just says we want to make a variable. Then we put the variable name, which is going to be x. And then you can see that we end the line here. Whenever you're making a variable, you can put equals and the value to set a value for it as soon as you make it. But here you can see that since there's no equal sign, you're just making a new variable and not putting any value inside of it. So this is what it looks like. It's just a box and it's empty. Um, so when naming variables in JavaScript, we follow a naming convention called camel case. When you're using camel case, you put multiple words together without putting spaces inside because variable names cannot have spaces. Then you capitalize any word after the first word. So you can see date is the first word, so it's not capitalized. But any other word like of and birth, they're all capitalized. This is just so you can um, see whenever the new word starts and the old word ends. So here, these are all lowercase, so you know it's a date. Then you see an uppercase letter, so you know it's the start of a new word. It makes it easier to read. Okay, let's continue with our variable called x. So since we already defined x, we know there's a box already. So we don't have to do let x again. We just have to do x. So now we could do x equals 30. This will put a value of 30 inside of the box. Okay, if you don't have a box already, basically if you didn't create the variable yet, and you want to store a value of 30 as soon as you create the box, you could do let x equals 30. So instead of doing let x and then x equals 30, you could do let x equals 30 in one line. So you make the variable and you put the value of 30 inside of it. Okay, the value 30 is now saved into memory associated with the variable x. You can access it whenever you want in programming simply by calling the variable name. But what if we want to change the value stored in the variable? We need to reassign it. So um, let's let x equal to 30, which means we have a variable named x that has a value of 30. Now, if you want to reassign x to have a value of 40, um, then we would do x equals 40. So here's our box with a value of 30. And then when you do this line, x equals 40, you basically just replace the value 30 with 40. You only need the let keyword when you're first making the variable. That's because there's no box here. But since you already have the variable in this line, you only need to do x equals 40 because you're just replacing the value. Okay, there's different types of variables. So first is the number type in JavaScript. Number type is basically anything that has digits. So it could be like a decimal, it could be just a regular number, and it can also be here something like 0.6. That's a number because it's a decimal, but it can also be something like 2. Um, that's also a number. As long as it's not like text or anything else. It should be in the number category. Next we have Boolean. So this can be only true and only false. So uh, it can't be a number, it can't be text. It can't be the text true. It has to be either true or false. And then we have string, which could be any text. So let's just dive deeper into this. So here's a numeric type, the number. It could be any integer, including negative numbers and positive numbers, and it could be any float. So most programming languages they separate this. So integer is its own variable type and float is its own variable type. But in JavaScript, they're both into one type called number. So integer you would use to count something like apples. So if you have one or two or three apples, you'd use integer. This is how you define it in JavaScript. Let num apples equals 3. And then for float, it could be something like a price. So prices usually aren't like a whole number. They usually have some decimals in it. So you would just do let cost equals 4 point whatever your float is. So 40.25, you're just setting cost to that. Okay, Boolean, here's how you define a Boolean. You do let light on equals true or light on equals false. Um, Basically, you're just making a variable and setting it to either true or false to set it to a Boolean. You can see true means it's on and false means it's off. You can see that also there's no quotes because if you put anything around quotes, it makes it into a string. So when you're making a Boolean, you don't want to put quotes around the true or false. Okay, finally we have string. Um, Notice how there's quotations around the text. That's how you signify to the computer that Carol is a string and not just part of the code. Here's the quotes. Okay, here's how you can concatenate strings. So if you add together the string hello and add together the string space word, you can see there's a space here. Spaces matter in strings. When you combine this together, you can see it says hello world, and the space here, it gets added to the middle. Okay, let's try out string concatenation. Okay, we have our function named main with parentheses and our um, open curly braces. And then we make a new variable using the keyword let. Name is the name of the variable, equals, and then a value of Carol. And then we put a semicolon to end the line. If we try console.logging this, or actually no, we console.log a string plus this. So you can see the first string is going to be hello space, and the second string is going to be Carol. So when you add these together, it should be hello space Carol. And then you have to call the function to make sure that the code inside actually runs. And you should see hello Carol. So let's try this real quick. We have um, console.log. We have string one, and then let's also add to it string two. You can see how the strings are in quotes. And then we're also calling our function. So here's what you print out whenever you type this line, string one plus string two. You can see how it basically puts them together in one string, and it doesn't add any spaces in between. So if you wanted a space, you would just add a space to one of the strings, and now it's string one plus or string one space string two. And then these don't have to be strings that you write in here. They could be variables with strings inside of it. So let's just do um, string variable. You can see I'm using camel case. And then we make a new variable called string variable. Okay, so now instead of being string one plus string two, we're doing string one plus a variable that has a value of string two. And this should give us the same output. Okay, let's do some basic math in JavaScript. Okay, using arithmetic operators, basically like a plus minus or division, you can perform basic math on numeric values in your program. We use these operators to solve math equations and build functions to perform common calculations. So here you can see, so let me go back. You can see read in enter number. This just basically says, I want the user to enter the number. And when the user entered number, they entered 14. Number two, it's the same exact thing. They entered number 6. And the sum, they're doing num1, which is the value 14 that they entered in, plus num2, which is the value 6 that the user entered in. It just adds them together. So 14 plus 6, the sum is now 20. And then since the sum is 20, you're just printing this out. The sum is 20. We'll dive into that right now. So to add, you use the plus sign. Subtract, you use the minus sign. Multiplication, you have to use this asterisk. Um, you don't use the X on your keyboard because it's not really multiplication. And then division, you use this slash. There's no division sign on keyboard. That's why you don't use like a division sign. Exponentiation, you use multiply, basically just two asterisks. And then modulus, you use the percent. We're learning more about these two later. Okay, yeah. Straight into modulus. So it returns the remainder of dividing two numbers. So 17 modulus 5 should be 2. So why is this? It's because when you do 17 divided by 5, you get 3 and you have 2 remaining. So modulus basically just returns the remainder. Um, Here, let's do this. So 15 divided by 5 is 3, but since you're doing 17, you have 2 remaining. So your remainder is just 2. And then if you do modulus 17 mod 5, you would just get 2. So you're only getting the remainder. You're not getting the actual value. Okay, it's very common if you want to add or subtract um, one from a variable. So let's say you have like a countdown and you want to add or subtract. There's a special arithmetic operator just for this. Let's see, here's a clock. You can see that you're subtracting 1 from this value over and over again. So let's say you want to do this more efficiently, you would use this increment operator. So instead of doing x equals x plus 1, you could just do x plus plus. And then this would tell um, JavaScript that you just want to increment the variable by 1. These two lines, they do the exact same thing, but one's obviously way shorter. Same thing for decrement. You would have x equals x minus 1. Instead of writing all of that, you could just do x minus minus. So if you want to add or subtract by 1, you'd use the increment or decrement. Okay. What if you want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide by a value other than 1? You'd reassign the variable to the arithmetic equation. So instead of doing x equals x plus 1, x plus y, you do x plus equals y. This table is kind of complicated, but I'll send you guys the slides. Yeah, so you just do the variable name. We're just using x as the variable name and y as the second variable name, but you just do x plus equals and variable 2, or whatever your variables names are. Same thing for all of these. They're just shorter forms to say the same thing as the left side. Okay, there's also many useful constants used in math like pi, and these values are universally accepted values. So they should be the same in every program. In programming, a constant is a variable that's value cannot be changed through reassignment. It's just a variable that you can't change. So to make a variable that you can't change constant, you would use the const keyword, and then you use the variable name, and you use the value. So here you can see you're assigning the variable name pi to 3.4, 3.14. Okay, here you can see at the top, we make our variable pi, 3.14. You can see that they use capital letters, they don't use camel case. Constants usually they're written with all caps just to signify that you can't change the variable. Because why would you ever need to change the value of 5? So here you can see the console log it, you get the same value. They use it for some circumference calculation, and they get the value. Okay, so let's try this out. I'm gonna make constant for the number of rooms that we have. So we'll just set that to 1. Now, if I wanted to say, or let's just console.log this value out. So we should get 1 because we put a constant value into it. Now let's say I want to change this value. Let's say number of moves equals 2. If you run this, you're going to get an error because you can't assign to a constant variable. So you can't change the variable. Uh, Now let's try incrementing a regular variable. So let's just change this to let. Let's just say they found a new moon somehow, or um, let's just say we're talking about a different planet, like Jupiter or something. Now let me search up how many moons does Jupiter have? Okay, 95. Let's set the num of moons to 95. Now you have this new value as the variable, and then let's increment it. So let's say I just wanted to add 1 for the number of moons. You do plus plus. This just adds 1 to the variable. So now it's 96. We can also do plus equals. You can see in the table, plus equals is just the addition. You're just adding a value to x. So here we're adding a value to number of moons. Let's do 12, and then you get 107. Okay. Um, so that should be everything. Uh, Let me look over the slides again. Here you can see you multiple multiplications in one line. So let's say I want to do um, number of moons equals 95 plus like 2 plus 34 times like 5. You could do that, and it's going to figure this out. So you could do multiple operations in one line. Okay. So tomorrow is going to be on like loops. So you're going to have more use for the incrementing and decrementing arithmetic operators. But for now, you guys have to try these out, and then tell us how you guys do it in the Discord. Okay. Uh, doesn't x minus minus equals x plus? Mm, the homework? Yeah, I don't know what the homework is. It's not in the syllabus that we have that we're given. So I think just like look at Discord and then we'll probably do like a ping or just tell everyone on Discord when we find out what the homework is. Oh, the last assignment? Here, I can go over it. Um, okay, last assignment was 5.1. Which one was it? I'll just do writing in the console. Here we have our script, we have a comment, and then the assignment tells us to write a message to the console introducing ourselves. So you want your message to be in a console.log. Oh, the last one? Okay, yeah. You're debugging with the console. Okay. Um, so it's telling us that there's errors in this code. Okay, I can already see some errors. So let's inspect in a new tab. Use this to open the tab in new window. Then you click inspect, and then we open up the console. So you can see there's two errors. There's unexpected string at 22. So let's just go to line 22. Okay, so you can see the prompt is not in parentheses. You always want to put your message inside of parentheses. Okay, let's save this. Okay, line 23 missing parentheses after argument list. Line 23 here. Okay, you can see this error kind of makes sense, but if you just look at the code or line 23, you can see that this one needs quotes because it's a string. Okay, now it's asking what today's date is. Wait, it's not the last one. Okay, you can see it looks like it's working. Wrote the correct error messages. Oh, oh, you're talking about this the exercise. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of prompts. Okay. Store all your answers as lowercase strings. Okay, so you want to ask the user some questions. So let's do um, variable question or answer one equals prompt the user what's equals to, and then they want us to store it as lowercase. So that two lowercase. Um, oh yeah, you need like if statements for this. Hmm. And then counting, it's also with variables. We just learned that like right now and also in the next class. Yeah, I don't think we could do this right now. Mm, I think you should just skip this. And then maybe once we learn it, you can do the homework. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what today's homework is, so just look at the Discord for what today's homework is, or maybe just wait until tomorrow. Okay.